Good afternoon. This is Mike Farley, Poolside Perspective Podcast, and we have a very interesting episode today. So, for all you true crime fans out there, we are going to explore pool true crime, and you guys will decide if this is a crime or not. So, what we're going to actually talk about is salt systems and saltwater pools, and the pros and the cons of it, and should you be using it or should you not be using it, and we'll help you get some information so you can make an educated decision on that. It's been a nice, cool weather here in DFW.
Yep.
And we went to Colorado.
It was nice, cool weather there as well, and then it followed us back.
So for all you that appreciate it here in DFW, you have us to thank because we went up there. I think it was because Trey, went up there and had fun. So.
Oh yeah, I popped the question and she said yes, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. So she's celebrating her birthday actually tomorrow, and yeah.
All good things for September.
Oh yeah, September's been awesome.
Yeah. So, well, we're going to dive into this episode and talk about saltwater. So, a little history. I'm an old guy in the pool industry. So, I was in the...
What?
Yeah.
You're old?
I'm old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Some people think I'm old anyway. So, it has to do with my hair color, I think. But I need more Grecian formula. Is that what that stuff's called? Or
I don't know. I have no idea. But I think it looks good. It's better than dyeing it,
Yeah. Well, I'm
Don't do that.
all natural. So,
yes, sir.
Anyway, so we were in the pool industry in the 90s. It was in the late 90s. And this system came over from Australia. And they said, we're going to put salt water in pools and it's going to generate chlorine for you. And this is a low maintenance system.
Wow. So it came from Australia.
Interesting.
So,
and I laughed hysterically. I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
Oh, so this came in when you were in the industry.
Oh yeah. So late 90s, I'd worked for, the Jeremy Pools for about 7 years, about the time this happened. And the reason why is I was born in Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Point Pleasant overlooks the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay. So grew up in Seaside Heights before there was a Jersey Shore TV show. That's where I grew up.
It smells like salt in the air.
Salt in the air all the time. I mean, I lived all of maybe a mile away from the ocean. So
it's a good smell.
And the Pineys. And so I know what salt did to everything. I mean,
how so?
Your cars were destroyed. Your roads were destroyed. All the things that salt did to all kinds of metal and just everything just deteriorated over time. And I'm like, you're going to voluntarily put salt inside a swimming pool? I mean, if you had to, I could understand, but to volunteer to put salt in your pool, I was like, this is going to be a train wreck. This isn't going to last 2 or 3 years and it's going to be off the market. So I ate crow about 5 years later because the salt industry was booming.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had relocated to Texas, and I was familiar with using a low chlorine supplemented system in Northern California, where I used a lot of ozone and minerals in conjunction with a very low amount of chlorine. And so I tried selling that to everybody, and everybody was like, that sounds like some kind of janky system, that you're trying to push off on me.
Little snake oil action going.
Yeah. This is totally not legit.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got 45 friends that have a saltwater pool, and by gosh, I want a saltwater pool.
Everybody's got it. No issues at all.
No issues at all. It was going great. And so I was like, well, if that's what everybody's using, and I built my pool at that point in time, and I put a salt system on my pool because
yes, you did.
If I'm going to sell salt, well, I might as well have it on my own personal pool. And about the next year, the summer rolled around. And that summer, it was extremely hot and it did not rain at all. We were in a severe drought situation. And towards the end of the summer, we started getting phone calls. And the phone call went about something about like this. You need to come out and look at the stone on my pool.
Huh.
What's wrong with your pool? Well, my stone's rotting.
This is about 5 years into the craze of salt?
No, this is probably about 10.
Okay. And so it was bone dry that summer. So why out of nowhere everyone's calling you?
So we didn't know. And so we went out on these pools, and for the first probably 20, I mean, we'd go out and look at it and be like, what in the world did you do to this stone? You're right. It's rotting. I mean, you could tap on the stone and it would crumble.
Oh, wow.
It was just falling apart. Now, we predominantly used in this marketplace a flagstone.
Okay.
So Oklahoma flagstone was the predominant stone. The secondary stone that was used was travertine, which was brought up from Mexico.
Yeah.
So those were the two predominant stones used in the
and we're in Texas.
In Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. Dallas-Fort Worth area, Texas. So so we started trying to figure out what correlates with all these pools, because we didn't just see it on the flagstone. Yeah. We saw it some on the travertine, and there was a project that I went to that had New England bluestone. Now, New England bluestone's really, really hard.
Okay, and Oklahoma's flagstone is pretty soft.
It is, if you're a scale of stones across the board, yeah, it's a sandstone, flagstone, so it's on the softer side, and there's some that are worse than that.
But travertine's pretty hard.
But travertine's, is not
durable.
It's fairly durable. So anyway, after doing some research, we finally connected that every single one of these pools had a salt system.
Oh.
Now, we didn't know what that meant. It's just they all had a salt system. So
you got to lead.
Anyway, so someone then started thinking, and I don't know who did it or what, but we were trying to figure things out. And someone made a call to a predominant pool builder in Australia and said, have you ever had problems with stone deteriorating with a saltwater pool? And they were like, oh, yeah.
Oh, what? Wait, what wasn't Australia where this originated from?
This is where it originated.
So they introduced it, but
right,
their time clock is already ahead because they have so many projects that are already
right. And they were like, oh yeah, we don't ever use it with stone. And
that's awesome.
It was like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, salt when it dries expands.
Yeah.
And so what it'll do is cause your stone to all fall apart. And we're like, yeah, we're kind of experiencing that at the moment.
Oh, and it was a bone dry summer. So it was very dry, very hot.
So several things happened that made this such a catastrophe. So, but anyway, what they said is we use a lot of concrete on the edge of our pools.
Interesting.
Not stone. And so it doesn't affect the concrete nearly at the rate that it does on the stone.
Okay.
And if you're going to use it with stone, you need to seal it. And we're like, well, okay, that's a great idea. I wish someone had mentioned it 10 years ago. Because, we had all these, some pools, and some of these pools weren't old either. Yeah. So we were trying to figure out why they deteriorated at different rates and everything like that. Well, there were several things that came into play that as we thought about it and we understood is one, we had a drought.
Yeah.
It did not rain at all that summer. There was not one single storm.
So it's really hot.
So no, what happens is nothing rinsed the salt off the edge of the coping.
Oh, so it doesn't wash the deck off.
Okay. So if you're in an area that has regular rainfall
and
you have a salt system, you don't have a problem.
Okay.
Because it's rinsing it off.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So because we had the drought, that was the first problem. The second problem is it's based on the problem comes up because of evaporation. The salt dries and it expands. So the more you get wet, dry, wet, dry, wet, dry, wet, dry, the faster this deterioration is going to occur. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're hot here.
Yes, very.
We get a lot of evaporation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that occurring especially on the top of a spa, where people are getting in and out all the time, and the entry steps of the pool. Those are the two areas that went to, complete disaster areas. And so the other thing that came into play is what materials we used. Now, some other parts of the country, when we first came across this, we were one of the first companies to say, this is a saltwater problem. And there were people all in DFW going, you guys are full of garbage.
Well, and also every customer at the time wants a saltwater pool. So it's like the most popular thing you are going to pretty much say this is the problem. So what does that do? So that turns away so many clients at that time, because now it's a little bit more, I don't mind chlorine as long as the water's not as harsh. And so at that time, it's like pretty much saying, hey, we're not going to do this because it's going to deteriorate. And so
there were
the customer's going to walk away.
There are a lot of pool companies that are like, this is a sales gimmick.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are saying this because you're going to sell this other thing, and try to paint us all that we're using salt systems as bad guys.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was just that's what we found.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, we started sealing all of our stone that got salt.
Oh.
Okay.
I would feel like, wouldn't salt still get through the sealers?
Okay. So the first thing is when people say, I'm going to put a sealer on and makes it a salt friendly to my stone, that does not exist.
That doesn't make sense in my mind at all.
Okay. It will slow the process down. Okay. But it is not stopping that process.
And you're going to have more areas that get more exposure to salt, so that those parts are going to wear off quicker with the sealer.
Well, the recommendation is that you reseal it
quicker. Yeah.
Every year or two situation with those stones. Now, again, other parts of the country, as basically people got information, people realized, okay, the common comment was, I don't have, it's not the salt, I got bad stone.
I've heard that multiple times before, actually.
Okay, I got bad stone, and because I got bad stone, my stone's falling apart. It's not my salt system.
Yep.
And here's the thing. People love their salt systems.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get into what salt does and everything here in a second after I finish my long-winded story. But, people loved it, and so they didn't want to get rid of it. So a lot of people were like, no, it's bad stone. And so everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's bad stone. Bad stone's the problem.
Yep.
Now, here's the challenge. We've been using that same stone for decades.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad before.
No.
It worked fine. Okay. There wasn't any problems with it. And all of a sudden it starts falling apart with everybody that has salt water associated with it. So that gave us a basis of information that we could understand, because there were people in California who are like, we don't know what you're talking about.
But they're probably using concrete instead of stone.
They were using predominantly precast stone.
Yeah.
Or they're using cantilevered concrete on their projects. I mean, I can count on one hand how many jobs I used stone on in Northern California the first 5 years I was in the business.
But in Texas, I mean, our neighbors, Oklahoma flagstone, we pull it out of the ground.
Well, and you got Millsap and Granbury and Austin.
Austin stone,
okay. All those stones, the reason they're called that is because they're pulled out of quarries in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the name of the town.
Yeah.
And so, we have a predominantly stone market. Okay. So the other thing is we have a very high evaporation rate.
Yeah.
We also have times that we don't get a lot of rainfall, especially in the summer where you have your predominant issues with salt being put on the deck because people are getting in and out of the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So we have the perfect trifecta for a salt system not to work.
I could just imagine during the summer when it's a drought, people get out of the pool, the water gets all over the coping, the decks and everything, and then it dries and it never washes off because there's no water, no rainfall. And that happens over and over and over and over throughout the whole time, the main time people are using their pools.
Correct. So especially when you have got people, family with kids, they're getting in and out of the pool 50 times in a day.
Easy. Doing cannonballs, jumping in the pool, everything.
So, okay. The whole story there is to give a premise of where we started and what the challenges were from that situation. We're going to take a break here for a second and get into outdoor living. So with outdoor living, we like to go to BBQ Bits here. We're going to share some information of everything that you may want to consider in your outdoor living space as far as features, especially for the kitchen. Hope you enjoy this. Morning, Bobby.
Morning.
So we've got questions about smoke. And with smoke and cooking, a lot of people were like, do I need a vent hood? And when do I need one? And what do we have that would work?
So we're bringing in a lot of the indoor to outdoors now. What we've seen is an increase in vent hood sales. Yes, if you're in an interior wall, not an exterior wall, you're probably going to specify a vent hood. For an outdoor rated vent hood, we need minimum 1200 CFM. We're going to go outside of the grill span. So if it's a 36-inch grill, preferably a 42 to a 48-inch vent hood. One dynamic that a lot of people don't forget is that, when I run a vent hood, how am I going to vent it? Is it going to be direct elbow out the back? If so, then I'm going to need a cover for the top. Do I have a crawl space above that area? Because there will be a duct that will run through the ceiling. And also you want to take in consideration, if you're a designer or a specifier, the duct cover. So these bigger grills need more air volume to move out that smoke. And are we going to get 100% out of that backyard or that back porch? Probably not. About 80 to 85, 90%. So the winds in Texas, when you have a downburst, a lot of people think it's like interior. It will take everything out of that back porch. More than likely, it's going to take most of it. But generally, it'll take almost all of it, not completely.
So you'll have a little smoke smell on yourself when you finish
You will,
cooking.
and that's a gift from the grill gods. So, but yeah, that's part of that. But it will take most of that smoke out and through the roof.
So is there a height that you want to be off the counter with the grill?
There is a lot of companies will go 32 to 36 off the finished top. That's going to be, are you going, what's the height that you're going to be? We have 39-inch tops in here, or we 36, but yes. Are you going to want a stainless steel backsplash from that manufacturer? And then also our outdoor depths are 30 inches. Remember, a standard 24-inch depth vent hood will not work. Usually there's a stainless steel plenum on the back side that brings out the vent hood that would overlap the front or hang over the front, so all that smoke would go up into the vent hood. So.
And do most vent hoods come with lights, and so it can help from,
They do. A lot of the outdoor rated vent hoods now do not have just a charcoal screen in here. They all have lights. Some of them have dual CFM motors, or 600 each side, or a full 1200 CFM. When you build these in, of course, you'll Y into a 10-inch duct that would go out the top of the roof, and you're going to use that weather collar and air cap for that.
So do people use these with like a big green egg or a Primo as well?
That's a great question. So yes, we see a lot of that. A lot of people will try to sandwich a grill and a big green egg into one vent hood. It's not going to work for you. You would really need to do what's called a liner, so it's different than this. The liner, you would have a fur down cabinet that's outdoor rated, maybe Hardy backer, and then put the liner up inside of it to cover more area, or do dedicated vent hoods for each appliance and charcoal grill. So
awesome. Well, thank you for that information.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed the barbecue bits that we just featured today, and we'll have more coming up next week. If there's something in particular that you're interested for, let us know, and we'll get back into the episode now. So there's some myths with salt systems.
Yes.
Okay, so let's discuss some myths with salt systems to get those cleared up first of all.
Okay.
So the first thing is, a lot of people say, is a salt system it doesn't have any chlorine in the pool.
I've heard that actually multiple times, because I was a certified pool operator. I did punch out items on jobs. So I dealt with customers when we were handing over the pool to them, pretty much giving them the reins to take care of it. And there was multiple times, I think only twice actually, but where a homeowner was allergic to chlorine at some kind of level. And so they said that they didn't have a chlorine system, and they had a salt system instead. And so we would have to explain to them that there's still chlorine in the water, that the salt cell actually creates chlorine. It's a low dosage of chlorine, but it's still in there.
Right. So old school, going back again to when I was a kid,
Yes.
you put granular chlorine in the swimming pool.
Yep. Shock.
So you put it in typically on Saturday morning, because that's when Dad dealt with the pool.
Yeah.
So when did you get to go swimming? Saturday afternoon. So you came out of the pool, you had bloodshot eyes.
Looking like Ching Chang Chong.
Your skin felt horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Your hair was brittle, And, if you were a girl and you had, a lot of times they turned weird colors and all this kind of stuff, because that's what chlorine did for you.
You
Now,
smell like chlorine. Yeah.
so it went to a really, really high level, but then he didn't put chlorine in for a week.
Yeah.
So it dissipates all week long. So Friday night when you went swimming, the water was great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No problems whatsoever. So it was this peak valley, and then people would mess up and they'd forget because they went to a wedding on Saturday. So they didn't put any chlorine in the pool. And then on Tuesday, the pool was green.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we've got to do something to fix the green. So we've got to add these chemicals. One, that messes up this balance. And so we got to add this over here. And so there was this whole thing with chemicals that people hated.
Yeah, once it gets out of balance, there's so many ways it could go wrong.
Yeah. And so when the salt system came out, what it was is sodium chloride, salt, going through electricity, made chlorine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's what it does in the simplest of terms. And so, but there were countless people that used to argue with me, I want the no chlorine salt system. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. And I would try to explain to them, go look up what salt is made of, sodium chloride. Okay.
You don't have to add chlorine, but the chlorine is made for you. You add salt, you add acid to lower the pH levels.
Right. Lots of chlorine.
Yes, lots of acid.
And bags and bags of chlorine.
Yes.
And
bags of salt.
Bags of salt.
Yes.
And then you have gallons of acid because the alkalinity is so high in this.
Yeah.
So,
like the Dead Sea, you don't have anything living in there because the Dead Sea has such a high salt count.
Right. So it's super chlorinated. The Dead Sea is a super chlorinated pool.
Oh, interesting.
That's what it is. So super chlorinated that you float in the water.
Yeah, it's wild.
So a salt system is not a no chlorine. It is still a chlorinated pool. But what it does is it flatlines your chlorine level instead of peak valley, like it did with the old school, Saturday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, Friday night. It's basically flatlining you all week long. So you don't have a real high, you don't have a real low. And it was automatic. And so people loved it. That's the first myth. So the second myth is, is it a zero maintenance system?
No.
So
there's no such thing.
No, there is no such thing. That's 100% right. But there's a lot of people that are like, well, I heard a salt system, there's no maintenance. I put that on it and I just walk away and my pool takes care of itself. So that was another misconception a lot of people still have.
You could argue less maintenance, but in reality, it's like how many tubs of acid you're adding versus how many. It's just, it all balances out, I think, honestly.
So your chemical balancing is a little bit trickier with a salt system than it is with a chlorine system because you're dealing with the pH movement in there. And so you got to make sure there's enough acid. You keep your pH levels at the right levels. Otherwise, you're going to end up with scaling.
Yep.
And you're going to end up with...
well, the salt systems actually can produce staining from the salt itself. It can stain the plaster. So a lot of people, I think, moved to vinyl liners and stuff like that to avoid that. That doesn't happen in our region. But when we were doing research, I saw that. I'm saying someone could argue technically that salt might be easier because they just have to deal with acid versus getting shock and other components.
So let me throw another thing that a lot of times people don't think about.
Okay.
It does rain.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we've diluted your salt level in the pool.
Hmm.
So we used to have people that come home and they'd say, well, I thought salt was low maintenance and I went on vacation and my pool was perfect. And I came back and my pool's green. But what in the world happened? Well, it rained for 6 days. And so what happened is it diluted the salt level in the pool because it was going out the overflow.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't enough salt in the pool to generate the chlorine. So now he comes back and he has algae in his pool.
And your pH levels and alkalinity levels are higher.
Yeah. One thing that also, which in this part of the country isn't an issue, but from what I understand in some parts of the country, it's illegal to drain a saltwater pool.
Oh, wow. So how would you switch over?
Because in LA, you can't drain your pool into the public sewer system So that's illegal. My guess is the salt is going to impact the sewer system in some way.
Oh, interesting.
And that's something that I don't know about. But anyway, there are certain parts of the country that don't allow you to drain a saltwater pool because they consider it not to be good for the environment that it's going into. And so you have to pump your pool out like with a water truck or something like that. So that's another thing that I ran into. The other thing is you have to replace the cell that generates the chlorine, and that has to be done over a certain period of time. And a lot of that has to do with how well you maintain your water quality and how well you maintain the cell itself.
Okay.
But some people say you're going to replace a cell every 2 to 3 years. Some people claim that it's a year. Some people say it's 7 or 8 years. And usually the person that's saying it's really low is someone that's trying to sell something as an alternative to salt. And the person that's really, really high, they're trying to sell saltwater pools. So you have to take the information that you get with a grain of salt. So it also depends on what part of the country you're in. Again,
Yeah.
you're going to see different impacts in different areas because of the demand on the system. But that's a cost. And again, I saw costs all over the place. And are we just looking at the cost of the cell and you're going to DIY this, or is this a cost of hiring someone to come out? But, usually I saw somewhere $700 to $1,000 in cost to replace a salt cell. So that's one thing you have to factor in when you're factoring in what the cost of this overall situation is to consider that. One thing also that I was kind of surprised at is there were some people that pointed out that salt was not good for your health.
Oh, so you're telling me the waffle fries from Chick-fil-A aren't healthy?
Well, if you took a bath in them, that's what their concern is.
Oh, okay.
So there's people that have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
That they do not want them to use their water softener because there's salt in that at a much lower rate than there's salt in a swimming pool. Now, I don't know how many people go around drinking the water in their swimming pool, but they're talking about immersion in it causing a health risk. I don't know how much that is something, but if you have high blood pressure, you might want to consider looking into, swimming in your salt at a lower level. I don't know, but I'm just bringing up everything.
My two boys, they drink the water a lot in the pool.
They do. So
Yeah.
I guess they don't have high blood pressure.
Guess not.
Yeah, but they're big. His two boys are big white furry things called dogs. Anyway, but they do believe that the pool is a water bowl, although there's no salt in that pool.
No, thankfully. Yeah, I'd be worried if there was salt in there.
Now, one thing also that it's talked a lot about is the salt is going to cause my equipment to
Deteriorate.
Yeah, that's the word. Deteriorate. Yeah. Yes.
That honestly, I think that might be plausible because it definitely deteriorates metal. It rusts, and
So there's several places that you'll see deterioration generally.
your pumps probably.
Your pumps, your heater is definitely an
sure.
issue with it. When you have metal in the pool, like a ring around the light, if you have a ladder in your pool, if you have a diving board, the diving board jig and platform. Now, there's a lot of things that have come out in the industry because people use salt a lot that have actually plastic parts for those things.
Yes.
And so with that, then you're going to not see a problem. But a lot of the older pools, it's metal. And in some pools, newer pools, they're still putting in metal. It just depends on, if you put a salt system in, you'd probably want a salt-friendly diving board, which there is one that exists that I know of. But, you can look at things to work around the equipment deterioration. Although your life expectancy of your equipment, I've told by many people that do remodels, is here that they see about a 25% reduction of the lifespan of the product.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's another thing to consider when you're looking at a saltwater system. Now, what does chlorine do? Okay, chlorine does three things. Chlorine kills bacteria, it kills algae, and it provides a residual. So when the system is off, it still does the first two.
Yeah.
So there is nothing else that does all three of those.
That's why there's chlorine in salt water pools.
Well, so anytime somebody says, I'm going to take chlorine away and replace it with this, it's not going to work. We're going to take a break for design concepts now. So design concepts, what we're going to do is talk about why we did the things on a particular job.
I don't know why this popped in my head, but one of the earliest jobs I remember when I interned for you right after high school was the double pool. I think it was in Louisville area. I'm not going to get into specifics. I don't want to say exactly their location or anything like that. But can you tell me more about that design and what was going through your mind as you worked on that job?
So that pool was a lot of fun. So I drove by this particular piece of property all the time.
Yeah.
You could see it. The prior owner that had this house would decorate the back of the house with lights, and it was on the highest point overlooking the lake. And you would drive by and it would be beautiful. And it was funny because I was sitting in their house on the very first appointment. And I'm like, I'm in the house. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, I always thought this house was really cool. And so we walked out into the backyard and the house dropped off about 100 feet to the lake.
Goodness.
No, 100-foot drop, not 100 feet to the lake, but 100-foot drop to the lake.
Yeah, I remember seeing this as a kid. This is like one of the first times I was like, wow, my dad does some crazy stuff.
So this is the first drone shot job that we did.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so your mom was flying the drone. She was trying to learn how to fly the drone, so she brought out her cheap little drone first, and she flew it into a tree, and I had to climb up into the tree and get it. And I was like, let's just leave it there. I mean, who cares? You bought a new one. And she's like, no, I need to practice with my drone that she would fly around in the house and chase the dogs and all kind of crazy stuff.
You left it there to be like a little fancy ornament.
Yes, it was a fancy Christmas ornament. So this yard, we sat and talked to the clients, and the clients are like, I want to design the pool that this is where everybody wants to come and hang out. And so if everybody wants to come and hang out, we have to have multiple uses of the swimming pool. So we want an area that we can relax. We want an area that we can play volleyball and basketball. We want a big ledge for chairs. We want a really cool hot tub by our master bedroom. We want a slide. We want a diving board.
Wow.
We want it all.
Sounds like a great kind of vibe.
Yeah, it was a great situation. The only thing they didn't want was a lazy river. So, which was good because it's hard to put a lazy river on a cliff. Okay. That's the only river that needs to be in a flat spot. So I said, we want to design all this, and we have a beautiful lake view. And so we're thinking we want to do a vanishing edge. And so I talked to him a little bit about it, and I said, there's a concept. At that time, I had only done, I want to say once or twice before.
This is like 2016, right? Ish.
Yeah, somewhere back in that time period.
Okay.
And so the concept was, what if we made the Vanishing Edge Basin big?
Yeah.
And we make the Vanishing Edge Basin, instead of just a Vanishing Edge Basin, let's make it a second pool. And so it's what we call the double pool.
Double decker.
And so the concept is the upper pool is all about the relaxation. So there's a big tanning ledge. We've got this big shallow area where, people can play games and stuff like that. But if they want, they can just hang out there.
Yeah.
And so it was all about the hanging out and looking cool. And then it dropped down. And so the transition from the upper pool to the lower pool hid the 6-foot tall slide.
Oh, that's perfect.
And so you could walk up basically to the slide at the upper level, and you're at the very top of the slide, and you slid down to the lower level. So on one end of the pool, we had the slide coming in. The other end of the pool, we had the diving board coming in.
That's
so
awesome.
The kids could, go down there and rock the pool and splash and, go up and down the slide, and everybody can be really active down there, and everybody can be up in the top pool chilling.
It sounds like a perfect activity pool.
Yes. So with this, one of the concerns is we've got this big drop. We don't want people walking on the coping and then falling off down to a lower level because the pool was down 6 feet, but there was a transition area that was 4 feet down. And so one of the things that we did is on the coping, we put fire bowls. And so the fire bowls were bigger than the coping, so you couldn't step over a bowl because they were 30-inch bowls. So it would be real hard to transition and walk down this coping.
Yeah.
And so it kept the kids from walking on that and jumping from one level to the next.
And provides awesome aesthetic.
Oh, it was an awesome view. I think there were 4, maybe 5 fire bowls on the edge of this pool. And so at night, you've got the upper pool lit up, you got the fire bowls going, you've got the sunset going out on the lake and the water vanishing into the lake, and you can hear lots of laughter and lots of fun because they're all down below having a good old time. So this was a freeform pool. This was back in the days before things were real modern. The house also wasn't very modern, and also the setting was definitely not modern. So with all those things coming into play, it was something that worked really well with the freeform. So we had the original deck that was there was all flagstone. So we did all flagstone decks all around the pool so we could match up the aesthetic and make everything blend together so it looked like it was all one piece all done together. It was really nice. Down at the lower level, we had a big day bed so people could hang out there and enjoy that space and look out over the lake and enjoy and watch all the kids playing down, coming down the slide. We did a lot of lighting on the wall, so it looked really cool from the lake.
So the wall that's the water would go on and fall into the bottom pool?
Correct.
Okay.
So as the water went over that, it was all lit up at night, so it looked really cool. And then one of the cool things was, their spa was literally about 5 steps away from the master bedroom door. So they could step out there, and it sat up really high so you could look out over the whole upper pool and then to the lake. And so it was a really fun project. One of the weird things on it was we had initially concept-wise is we were going to come in after the lower pool. It dropped down we dropped off the porch 24 inches. And so basically the walls and the steps gave a lot of places for people to hang out, but all the walls were 24 inches tall, so they're like a seat bench. And so then we got down to the pool level, and then it dropped from there 6 feet down to the lower level. But we had about a 20-foot elevation to deal with in that space, so that meant we still had 12 more feet of elevation to deal with in that space. And so we were going to build a 12-foot tall wall on the back side and basically pier everything and support everything. We went to the city, and we got it engineered, and went to the city to get the permit, and they said, you can't build a wall over 4 feet. And I'm like, no, I understand you have to get engineering on a wall over 4 feet. And they're like, no, we don't allow any walls in this town over 4 feet. And I was like, okay, wait, I'm confused because I can drive around and show you lots of walls that are over 4 feet tall in this town.
What about fences?
And they had some problems with some things that were built that structurally failed. And so the result was the city council just passed a law that you couldn't have any walls over 4 feet tall.
I gotcha.
And so it took a while for that to come off the books, but that didn't happen during my project. So I had to go in, instead of building a 12-foot wall, we had to do a 4-foot wall, and then a space, and another 4-foot wall, and then a space, and another 4-foot wall. Well, the problem is we now had traveled farther out on the slopes. We had to build another 4-foot wall. So it was crazy what we had to do to pass the city code. But that was what was required. And so that's what we did. And we were able to make it all work.
I'm just curious, were these walls at the base of the bottom pool going down?
Right. So there was,
I think I remember exactly what you're talking about. It's like almost like a wedding cake.
Yes. It's exactly like a wedding cake going down. So there was, well, in the initial design, we weren't going to have a drop beam on the bottom pool.
Oh, okay.
And so one of the things that we did is we put a 4-foot drop beam on that part of the pool, or maybe it was 2 foot. I think it's 2 foot, actually. I think it's a 2-foot drop beam, and then the walls start right after that. But it was nice in the fact that it wasn't like this, all of a sudden you walk up to the wall and it drops off 12 feet.
Yeah.
So, which would have had to have a safety rail. So what they ended up doing was planting in between all these 4-foot walls, so there wasn't any railing there. as you looked out. So spectacular job, a lot of fun. Like I said, it was the first. No, it wasn't the first. It was the second or third double pool that I did. But it was the one that had all the fun stuff in it, and it had a phenomenal view. So
The wild one that they built. So just imagining them digging and tying steel and building those walls. It's crazy.
yeah, so there's quite a few YouTube videos on that project because that was the first one we had a drone. So my wife was like out there almost every day flying the drone around, filming all this stuff. The excavation was really fun and all the different levels. And so, but it also changed how we photographed swimming pools, because one of the coolest views is looking back at the house from the lake. And there was no way in the world prior to having a drone that you could get that picture.
No.
I mean, there wasn't a ladder tall enough to even, basically because of the 4-foot terraces, if I set a ladder up, I could barely see the bottom pool.
If you were on the bridge with an amazing camera, do you think you could have got that shot?
No, because I'm too low.
Oh, okay.
And also the trees are too thick.
Yeah,
So,
especially on that side that's closest to the bridge. Yeah, that makes sense.
but you can see it occasionally in the fall. After the leaves fall, you can see the pool barely, but it's still, you're too low from the bridge. So it was a cool project, but we do a lot of fun things, but there's reasons behind almost everything we do. A lot of times people are like, oh, this is just all about pretty, but it's all about the views from inside the house. It's all about the functions of the activities that we want to have. It's all about creating safety aspects as well. So there's a lot of thought process that goes into something. We just can't pull that type of thing out of a 3D model and plop it in. That's for sure.
Yeah. So thank you for answering that and walking me through the whole process. So go check out DFW Area Vanishing ... by Mike Farley. So there's a lot of cool YouTube videos they already have up. And also you can check out any other episodes of our podcast or specific cutouts that we do for the shorts or the design concepts or anything like that. So make sure you give us a comment or like the video if you appreciate it. Let us know what you think about this topic, about this certain design, and
Alternatives, you wanted to talk about alternatives.
Yes.
Okay, so a saltwater pool is generating chlorine. It's not generating anything else.
Exactly.
Making chlorine, so it's still a chlorinated pool. It's just at a steady lower level.
Mm-hmm.
So an alternative would be something that we're going to put in and we're going to take chlorine away.
Okay.
So when I was in Northern California, when I heard about saltwater pools for the first time, we were one of the test companies, I want to say in like 92, for this new piece of equipment.
Okay.
This piece of equipment was a cartridge which had copper and silver in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Copper and silver, their claim was they are a natural algicide.
Mm-hmm.
So their claim was a 70 to 80% reduction in chlorine with this piece of equipment. And this piece of equipment, we were one of 3 companies that were test companies in the United States. We were in Northern California. There was one in Florida. There was one, I believe, in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so we tested this piece of equipment out, and we said there is the capability to use less chlorine with this.
Okay.
But there's no way in the world this is a 70 to 80% reduction in chlorine here in the Sacramento Valley.
So what you're talking about is a Nature 2 cartridge.
That is what it was. It was a Nature 2 cartridge.
Yes.
Okay. So
That's putting minerals into the water.
correct. So, well, water runs through the minerals. in the cartridge.
Exactly.
So so we said, we see that you could probably reduce the chlorine rate by about 30% because it's so hot here
Instead
in the
of
summer.
80.
Instead of 80%. Well, this company was in Minnesota or Michigan or something like that.
Cold weather.
So somewhere where it wasn't quite as hot as we were in the summer.
Yeah.
And so their initial testings of 70, 80% may have worked there, but it didn't work in the valley, and it didn't work in Arizona that way. And so we suggested to them, if you claim 30%, you're going to be great.
Yeah.
Well, they went to market and claimed 70 to 80%. So everybody started using this piece of equipment and then threw it away because it didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, They worked great at 30%.
Expectations just weren't set to the right bar.
Right. So now what happened is they ended up getting bought out, and when they were remarketed, they remarketed at a much lower percentage rate.
That's smart.
Okay. So we were using that, and we had tested. So that works only on one of the three things. Does not provide a residual, doesn't work on bacteria. It's just working on algae.
Yeah. And when the system's running.
Okay. And the system has to be running.
Yes.
100%. Back in those days, there were no variable speed. No, let me correct myself. There were very few. Mostly it was a 2-speed pump, which was a high and a low. There wasn't a variable speed as we know it today.
Yeah.
But most people used single speed pumps.
Variable speeds literally just got popular in the last couple of years just because of the regulations that's going on.
Well, they've been out 20. So
yeah.
Okay. But so that just worked on one thing. You still had to have chlorine to do the other two.
Yeah.
Okay. So we reduced our chlorine loads by 30%, but at that, it took the burn out of people's eyes. And so people were like, this is a nice product. Okay. One of our service techs was like, hey, we tried that ozone thing a couple years ago and tried it and tried to take chlorine away, and it didn't work.
Mm.
What if we put it with this thing?
Combine the systems?
Combine the two systems. And we're like, well, sounds like a good idea. So we tried it. So we put the ozone with the minerals. Now, ozone worked on bacteria.
Yes.
It's been out for about 100 years. It's in every water treatment plant in the United States. It works phenomenally in that case. But as a standalone system, it didn't work for a swimming pool. Okay. And so, and that time and application. So we put ozone on and we put Nature 2 on, and we were able to drop our chlorine loads by 70%.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now at 70%, that was just slightly higher than tap water.
Yes.
Okay. So that was the system I was selling in the 90s in Northern California. I relocated to DFW in 99, tried to sell that system. Everybody was like, bah, that's funny.
Snake oil.
Snake oil.
Yep.
I want my salt system. So when this situation occurred in the mid 2000s, I went and said, hey, I tried this system in Northern California. It worked really well. You're going to try sealers and try to continue using salt.
Mm-hmm.
Can I try this with my clients? They're like, well, why don't you call and see if there's the other shoes falling in Northern California, and some train wreck now has happened with this system. So I called them up and said, hey, is this still working? They're like, it's great. I was like, okay, that's what I need to know. So at that point, we started using minerals and ozone and low chlorine on my pools. And that went by for about a year. They were trying all kinds of sealers.
Yep.
I was suggesting this to clients. Most of my clients are like, well, if that's what you think, we'll sign off on it. They were happy with it. And so after a year, at that point, then other people started trying that system as well. So today, that's the system we still use.
Yeah,
okay.
that makes sense. Like, it's much better option than putting sealers on and telling a customer, hey, after you use the pool, make sure you wash off the deck with the hose or something.
Here the thing is, there are a ton of mineral systems that exist.
Yeah.
There's a ton of ozone systems that exist.
Oh, yeah.
They do not perform all the same.
Oh, it's all different.
Okay. So what you have to understand is, the combination that's going to be right. And here's the other thing is, your demands are going to be different depending on where you live.
And what kind of job it is. A residential job versus a commercial job are two different categories.
Well, and I don't even know if I do residential only.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
I'm just putting that out there. Yeah.
Well, I don't think because of the chlorine loads that they require in commercial pools that you could use this on a commercial application.
Yeah. I don't know.
So there are alternatives to consider. So the question that we started with in the beginning, is it a crime to put a salt system on a swimming pool?
And tell someone that it is no maintenance and that be the expectation? 100%. There, I think from the logic we have discussed, you've discussed, there's ways you could have it. It seems very tedious to do it, and not optimal in my opinion. And if you can have something with the system that you're talking about that has the same water quality, pretty much, if you're swimming in a pool with your eyes open underwater, that's pretty much the same quality as a saltwater pool. That's the big, I could swim with my eyes open and they don't sting afterwards. It might be a crime. What do you think?
So there's a couple other little nuggets in here that I'm just going to throw out.
Okay.
That salt also, does it damage concrete?
It does. Not as much as stone, though.
Correct. So does salt damage the concrete at a faster rate than chlorine? So there's three concrete structures we're dealing with here.
Okay.
Okay. The first concrete structure I'm talking about would be the deck.
Yeah, that's the first one I think of.
Okay. The second concrete structure is the plaster. That is a concrete
Because it had...
base.
Okay.
Okay. So am I going to damage that over time? And the third structure that you have the shell of the pool.
Yeah.
That's concrete.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are all kind of different, but I just want to bring it up. So there was some literature that I read that said that salt versus chlorine.
Oh my, I know where you're going with this now. Yeah.
Will damage 5 times faster a plaster finish. If salt water can penetrate your shell, over time, will the steel deteriorate?
Well,
So are we talking about maybe 15, 20, 30 more years down the road, or are we going to have
more issues with salt?
more issues with salt?
Possibly.
So I don't know the answers to that.
No, this is all theories.
So, but my question is I know what salt water did to everything as a kid.
And metal rebar rusts like crazy.
So anyway, it's just something to think about over a period of time. How's your plaster going to hold up? How's your steel going to hold up? And quite honestly, how's the concrete deck going to hold up over a period of time? Now, I know that, that they say that it's been out for a long time and it hasn't caused any problems. I know that growing up as a kid, there was concrete that was damaged by salt water. Now, that was ocean water, and that's at a higher salt level.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's different. I understand that, but these are all things to think about. So is it a true crime to put a saltwater system in a swimming pool? Here's what I think is the crime.
Okay.
If you don't explain the options to a client.
Yeah.
Client comes to you and says, I want a saltwater pool. Okay. And you just give them a saltwater pool and you don't say anything about it. Now, some people say, well, that's good for the remodel business.
That's true. It is. Yeah.
Yeah,
25% more repairs.
Yeah. Well, and more coping damage and all those things. So, but, joking aside, my feeling is as a professional, it's to give the homeowner information.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going just to automatically say, yes, I will give you a salt system. I'm going to ask you why you want a salt system, and I'm going to explain chlorine and how it works, and I'm going to show you alternatives, and I'm going to tell you the price of this and the price of that and the long-term maintenance impacts. And when I go through that here, Northern California,
Florida?
what? No, not Northern Florida. I'm
Texas?
I'm Alzheimer's.
Right now here.
I got Alzheimer's now, so I reverted back. I'm back.
Glitch in the system.
Yeah. So here in North Texas, to me, it's a crime to put that in a swimming pool, given the trifecta that we have here
Yes.
with minimal rainfall, evaporation, and the stones that are readily used in this area. Northern Florida, well, you're using a concrete, precast or a cantilever concrete, and it rains all the time in the summer. And, I think that you don't have a track record of problems, nor, Southern California, the same thing. So I don't think that's a problem to sell that system there. So I think you have to look at all the factors to decide if it's a problem or not. Well, that kind of completed all the information that we have on saltwater pools, and you'll have to decide if that's a crime to you or not.
Yeah.
We have other requests for other pool true crimes that have been done. Some of the suggestions have to talk about hydraulics. Another one someone suggested to me is, should you buy a pool without a three-dimensional model?
Interesting.
So, should you buy a pool without a proper grading plan?
Or maybe a construction document that's only 1 page long.
Oh, yes, the one-page contract.
Yep.
Yes, that probably is definitely a true crime. So please, if you have suggestions on some other crimes that we should discuss, please let us know what those are. And we enjoyed discussing this. Hopefully we gave you some good insight. But if you got questions and comments, let us know on either the YouTube videos or on the website.
Yeah. Just use that comment section on the YouTube as a little form and keep this conversation going. And we're eager to hear what y'all have to say.
Thanks again.
Have a good one.